Matt Damon isn't Greek. And Hathaway isn't Greek. Tom Holland isn't Greek. And Lupita Nyong'o isn't Greek. So why is the internet only furious about her? The easy answer, of course, is that she isn't white. White. It's a haunting adjective when you really think about it. Because we've completely forgotten the adjective that should actually describe this cast, if we care about accuracy, is Greek. So why do we blindly accept the rest of the cast? Why aren't people upset about them? Well, the common sense answer is that Greek people are white in a story, right? Well, history strongly disagrees, especially the people who historically defined what whiteness even meant. When Greek immigrants first arrived in America, they were shocked to find themselves categorized as white on paper, because back in Europe, they were never considered equals by Anglo-Saxon powers. Historically, early American concepts of whiteness were incredibly exclusive. In the 18th century, Benjamin Franklin famously argued that only the English and Saxons were truly white, viewing most of continental Europe as swarthy. When Mediterranean immigrants arrived in the U.S. centuries later, they faced massive discrimination and xenophobia. They weren't seen as part of the club, even though on paper they were. So, how did the very people who looked down on Greeks end up studying, admiring, and monopolizing Greek stories? This cultural hijacking happened long before American assimilation. Looking at the British Empire, the highly influential Victorian philosopher John Stuart Mill claimed that the English were the true cultural and intellectual heirs of the ancient Greeks, basically saying, "We'll appropriate your culture because it rocks, but your race? Ugh, no thank you." Nobody is trying to cancel the USA and England for enjoying ancient Greek civilization. It is a foundation of modern civilization. But we can look at the historical hypocrisy underneath. Which brings us back to Christopher Nolan. He chose to use Emily Wilson's translation of the Odyssey, a translation heavily marketed for its linguistic accuracy and modern clarity. So Hollywood had a golden opportunity here, a redemption story, a chance to give us an accurate, authentically cast adaptation. But when the cast dropped, we didn't get Greek actors. We got the usual whitewashed Hollywood lineup, with a dash of what feels like rage-bait inclusivity. Look, if Nolan wanted to play the diversity card, this was a massive disappointment. When a musical like Hamilton completely diversified its cast, it worked beautifully because it commits to a bold, artistic vision that resonated with the current American audience, even with a worldwide audience. It differentiated itself. Nolan's casting feels lazy by comparison. We get Zendaya, Travis Scott, and Lupita Nyong'o dropped into a fundamentally white American/British cast, without a single Greek or Greek-American actor in sight, let alone Mediterranean or Latino actors. And there are Latino actors like John Leguizamo, and we also do have a diverse cast. The problem is that this diverse cast consists mostly of side characters. The message from Hollywood is loud and clear. Not even the true descendants of the people who created and preserved this story have a place in the adaptation. Instead, the film cements the idea that these characters are white enough to be played by British and white American actors, but the door doesn't swing the other way. There are plenty of incredibly talented Greek American and Mediterranean actors, but the roles aren't going to them. I won't be buying a ticket. The only way to show nonconformity is with your wallet. But here's the tragic part. If this movie fails, which would be rare for a Nolan film, the studio and the media will likely blame Lupita. They'll claim a racist audience couldn't handle seeing her as Helen of Troy. It's a bad joke. If they wanted a diverse cast, it's lazy. If they wanted a faithful representation, they failed. And at the end of the day, none of this is Lupita's fault. Yet she's the one taking the heat, while the rest of the crew watches in silence.